Welcome to the PFD Performance YouTube channel. Pretty friggin' deadly.
Well, we've been making some decent progress. Still need to get the header gaskets in. This side was a little bit of a fighter. Some like tension in that thing. Also, gonna have to torque down the pushrod guides, get the rockers on, set our lash. But you probably saw, we did get the injector plate all wired up and the injectors installed. So next step is going to be taking the bug catcher off of this thing, taking the blower plate off, and getting it ready for the new one. So I'll probably set you up on time lapse. You can watch me kind of disassemble it. I'm gonna have to take, I think, a few of these off to get this off. And then, actually I could probably leave that till it's off the blower. So I'll probably just take the blower or the injector plate off. Take that last hose off. This has got to come out and go into the new injector plate. Get the IAT sensor out and into the new injector plate. I think we'll be laughing. Plus, I had to do a parts run. My dad got our press all built. So, we should be able to use that on our diff rebuild for the wagon. I'm pretty sure it's gonna need it. I don't know if we're gonna get to it for Mayhem though. So, there's that. Yeah. Too much stuff on the go. But I am really happy. We've got a lot done on this. Most of the big stuff's out of the way. I think we got the diaper in. We've got the wiring hooked back up for all the fans and stuff. We got to get the water system fully connected back in. Got to get oil in the engine, prime it, and like we're getting there. Anyway, I'll throw you up on time lapse while I fart around with this and make some stuff happen. Well, we've hit another thinking moment. But dang, does she look nice? Test fit. As much as I like the mechanical look, this does look super clean and shiny. Now maybe there's like a weird clash with the like BDS, TBS, BDS. But oh well. I still think that blower plate looks sick. And luckily, our throttle position sensor still fits. But I'm in the middle of trying to figure out what I want to do for fuel routing. So I think I got her figured. We're gonna feed, split, in, another line will come and in. They'll come out the back and around and into the regulator, and this will come out and into the regulator. Simple enough. But I found out this fuel pressure regulator is the Aeromotive A1000. In EFI applications, it's only good for 1,000 horsepower. It's only got a 6 AN return. So I don't know, like, from a lot of things I've read, I want an 8 AN return, and essentially the line that's out to the back of the tank is that big, and the fitting there is a 6 AN ORB to an 8 AN flare. So like everything's set up for it to be an 8 AN return, but having that restriction of 6 AN ORB is a very tiny hole. So like I'm a little bit nervous, you could say. I'm gonna look at some fuel pressure regulator options. I guess we'll be dropping another couple $100 on this thing. But I'm this far into it that I wanna set myself up for success. So I think we're gonna do that. Also, I'll show you. We got our IAT sensor down in there. We got a pigtail on it, so we'll just have to wire it up. So, a few minutes before I figure out how I want to tie that into the ECU. But everything else over here looks pretty normal. I'll level this out a little bit. And then this is what came and was the boost reference on the fuel pressure regulator. We got the headers on. Like, we're getting there. A couple little hiccups. Next thing here is, this is an 8 AN ORB outlet fitting, but this is 3/8 MPT is what was set up for the IAT. So I think this is just gonna live here like this. And we'll cross our fingers that it's not too close to anything. If it is, we might have to come up with some sort of like, or angled, like MPT female to MPT male, 45, 90. I don't know. At this point, I think I just want to get it running. Little stuff like that, I'm happy to tweak if I need to. If I stick it on the back and it looks goofy, but it works, I think we might rock that. So, more pondering, more Googling, more credit card, workout, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Anyway, my dog's barking. It's getting pretty late. Gonna work a little bit on this tomorrow. So, yeah, fun stuff. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. All right. Making progress. Just gonna do a quick walkthrough of what we got going on. We made a couple changes, and I honestly at this point I can't remember what was just time-lapsed and what was filmed, but we got the intake manifold back on, and back here we added our new second intake air temperature sensor. Grabbed a pigtail, so we got to wire that in, but the main reason for that is making sure that we can see the temperature of air under the blower. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, but we had the temperature sensor above the blower, which is helpful, but depending on how you're spinning the blower and how you're driving, that supercharger can make a lot of heat. We want to know how hot it is underneath, just to make sure that we're all safe with the tune. So we've added that. We'll tie that into the ECU. On the fuel side, we've got our new injector plate. I did a bit more reading. I think I said we were gonna maybe swap this out. It's not quite the limiting thing. It might be, but between the fuel feed in, a few other things, the pump that we're running, and maybe I'm being a little optimistic with the horsepower that this is gonna make, I think we're just gonna run it. I'm gonna build everything around 8 AN fuel lines. That should still be good from a fuel supply side for the horsepower we think this could make in the 1,000 horsepower range. And then the weird thing to consider is with it being supercharged, the parasitic loss of the blower means technically the engine's seeing 1,200. So it's making a little bit more power engine-wise to get 1,000 horsepower out of the crank, and then ending up with maybe 850 at the wheels. So I think we're gonna run it. We're going to add a fuel pressure sensor to tie into the ECU as well, so we're not just relying on the gauge. So right now we've got a feed and return, and they kind of sit over here on the block. So we're gonna come up, we're gonna split feed into the front. We're gonna come out of the back. I'm gonna get a union that has a tapped sensor port. So I think it's 1/8 inch MPT. And then they're gonna come in, both will come into the regulator, and then the return out of the regulator back to the tank. So I think that's gonna work. That's gonna be the cleanest and tidiest. And at the very least, we'll just see. And if I gotta throw a throttle stop on so I can't go to 100% throttle because we don't have enough fuel system, we'll figure it out. But I just wanna get this thing together and try and get it running. So yeah, there's that. I still gotta mess with the tune. Also, we've got our new Clearview oil filter, and we're gonna try and figure out where this is gonna live. I think now that we've got this situated, a fella might wanna put it here. And then it's nice and clear in your view. I'll just have to probably wait until the valve covers are on to see what's gonna be a royal pain in the butt. But this is kind of what we're thinking. It might also suck to, you know, have the oil filter immediately above the super hot exhaust. That might make some smoke. But other than that, there's really not a lot of good places. Like we've got our fire suppression run over here. So trying to mount it over here could be kind of tricky. Maybe we can make a bracket off of the radiator bracket that it lives here. But this is kind of a messy spot with the blower belt and everything. So I think we're either between this location or that location. We might also move the catch can now that we've got the dipstick out of the way. We realized that the factory dipstick just isn't gonna work. This is a tube chassis car, and it's a little car, and this is a big engine. So as you can see over here, there's a whopping 1-inch hole, but then once the valve covers are on it, there's no room for the dipstick to come out here. The other option is for the dipstick to come out under the head, immediately above the starter. And that's not a great spot either. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm going to get, it's a 3-inch low car, I think they call it Loctite or something, but it's a locking dipstick. It threads in, it's got the quick connect locking dipstick, and we just have to check the transmission fluid from under the car. Is it ideal? No. Is it the end of the world? Also no. I think that's our best bet to make sure we meet tech and are safe, because ultimately tech is there because they had some bad things happen and they want to keep people safe. And the last thing we need to do is overpressure the trans, blow a bunch of fluid out of the dipstick, and light the car on fire and need someone to save me with their Tom Cruise powers. So we're getting there. I got some water wetter and distilled water. We're gonna run that in the cooling system, and I'll just have to cross my fingers for temperatures and keep an eye on it and be mindful of the fact that this isn't freeze protected in that form, and things do get cold up here. So, but I also don't want to be the guy that drops a bunch of glycol on the track and creates a track cleanup for 82 hours. So lots to think about. Been a busy mind lately, but I do think we are getting there. Over the last couple days, my dad's been giving me a hand, and this is the closest I've felt we've been for quite a while. So that feels good. I think today I'm gonna try and get the rockers on and get the valve last adjusted and get our push rod guides all torqued in, and then we can really start buttoning things up with the blower, valve covers, getting the wiring connected again, and maybe one of these days in the next week or so, we'll get to click the button and try and fire her up. I was reminded I might not have talked about our diaper, and I'm not talking about the kind where you get old and maybe you had a little too many questionable Mexican burritos, but the diaper for the engine, not me. Again, speaking of not wanting to be the guys that drop a bunch of fluid on the track, it's a tube chassis car with motor plates, so the whole middle is wide open. So why wouldn't we put a diaper on? That being said, we also know that a lot of guys have oil temperature issues with the diaper. So we bought one with the quick connect, which means the kind of straps stay tied to the engine, and you just clip on the diaper and pull it off, so you don't have to unscrew the header bolt every time, which would be kind of nice. But that version didn't really come in a good wet sump design, so we ended up with the big bag, and it's kind of geared for a dry sump. It's really square. It doesn't have the deep pan at the back. But I think what we're gonna do is, it seems like it's gonna work, and we should be able to keep it pretty tight up in there, and then it'll hold fluid. But a lot of guys have issues with the diaper hitting the flywheel. So I think I might just need to track down like a 14-inch stainless steel hose clamp. And then what we can do is use that hose clamp to clamp the bag around the sump. And luckily, this sump has got the windage, So the sump kind of slants out. So if we can grab it above that, which is where it would start to hit the flywheel in the back, I think we might be able to just sucker in and really hold that diaper in the back so it's not rubbing on the flywheel. Because that's the last thing we need too, is a bunch of fabric getting in the flywheel and wrapping itself around. So lots of little things. It's surprising how many little things there are to think about, keep track of, make sure you're doing properly. So I think we're getting there. And yeah, if anything else comes up, I'll do a little rundown. But otherwise, we'll probably throw you on time lapse and you can watch us work.